Yeah. Okay. Hello, hello, dear friends, community of CAPA Social Work. Today we have a special guest for our World Social Work Day, which is Deepak, and we are very thankful for for your for your intervention, participation. Thank you so much, Annie, for being here. How you doing? How is the weather there?
It's cold and rainy.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, here's summer.
you're lucky.
Oh, yeah. Good. Today, Mostafis is going to help us with the conduction. Maybe, Mostafi, could you do the presentation? I will share the the flyer in order. Yeah, you could start with the presentation. Yeah. Do you have the flyer, Mustafa? Okay, like that. Today we will have two guests. No, one is Annie Deepak and Mildred Mushunje, who is going to speak after Annie, and she is living in Zimbabwe. Okay. A ver, entonces, a ver, voy a poner, I put the other flyer. Un momento. A ver, Mustafi, could you see?
Yeah, you can see it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so shall we start?
Yes,
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our CAPA Social Work Conference in celebration of World Social Work Day. As you know, this year's theme is co-building hope and harmony, a Harambee call to unite a divided society. At the beginning of this session, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the organizers, especially Ms. Carolina Cardenas, for her dedication and significant contributions to the field of social work and for making this event possible. Thank you, Carolina. Our today's speaker is Dr. N. Deepak, Associate Professor and Interim Director of the DSW in Human Rights Leadership at Monmouth University. Before we request her to begin her presentation, allow me to highlight Dr. Deepak's scholarly work a little bit. Dr. Deepak's scholarly work has focused on developing and applying a post-colonial feminist social work perspective to issues such as food security, human trafficking, humanitarian initiatives for women's economic empowerment, social work practice with refugees and immigrants, and sustainability and population growth. Her other teaching and research areas include global community practice, climate justice, ecosocial work, anti-racism, and the social and solidarity economy. As a United Nations representative for the International Federation of Social Workers, United Nations New York, since 2019, she participates in non-government organizations, work groups, writes policy statements, and organizes events focused on social development, gender, financing for development, the sustainable development goals, and promotes the People's Charter, co-building an eco-social world. Now I would like to invite Dr. Deepak to begin her presentation. Dr. Deepak, please.
Thank you. Let me just share my presentation. And just 1 minute. Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me, Carolina, and Mustafiz for introducing me. I'm very excited to be here. As noted in the introduction, I am a representative to the United Nations for International Federation of Social Workers. And today I'll be talking about the World Social Work theme in relation to the work that I do at the UN to provide some just kind of an overview of how we can relate the themes from co-building hope and harmony, a Harambee call to a united divided society, in the work that we're doing at the United Nations. So as you all know, this is we're facing these challenges in this historical moment that are really overwhelming, including war and conflict, global and local economic inequality, discrimination, social exclusion, displacement, ecological collapse, division. And people refer to this as a polycrisis in the sense that each of these things are occurring at the same time, but each of them amplify each other. So war and conflict increases climate change because there's enormous carbon emissions. You see with the bombing what's happening. And you can't disentangle that from global and local inequality. So each of these things, each of the dimensions are amplified by each other and they're interlinked. So at the United Nations and for World Social Work Day, it's something that people keep coming back to. This is a polycrisis. Everything is interrelated and interconnected. So our solutions need to be interrelated and interconnected. So co-building hope and harmony is very challenging in this moment, but it is possible. And there's lots of very exciting things that are happening despite the polycrisis that we're facing. So Harambee embodies the spirit of solidarity and shared responsibility, all of us coming together and doing what we can do for the good for all. It resonates deeply with the African ethic of Ubuntu, I am because we are, but with a practical emphasis on joint action and shared effort. For World Social Work Day, IFSW and our partner organizations have really emphasized this urgent need to restore trust and rebuild bonds of belonging in fractured communities, to move beyond charity towards genuine solidarity and beyond service to systems change, to amplify marginalized voices, to facilitate dialogue across social, cultural, and political divides, and embrace the path forward through cooperation, solidarity, and co-creation. So I will start by saying that I believe we all do this as social workers. We know how to build relationships. We know how to stand with communities, amplify marginalized voices, and facilitate dialogue across social, cultural, and political divides. We know how to work beyond silos, and we know how to collaborate with allies. We know how to create and sustain caring and accountable relationships. I believe we're all doing that right now, and maybe we can increase our efforts and think more creatively together about how we could amplify our own work. So I will just start by giving an overview of the International Federation of Social Workers. We represent 153 country member-based associations, such as, for me, I represent the National Association of Social Workers in the United States. And on my UN team, that is for the North American region, that is combined with Canadian Association of Social Workers. So we have 153 organizations of these associations all around the world. And IFSW provides a global voice for the profession. We strive for social justice, human rights, and social development through the promotion of social work, best practice models, and the facilitation of international cooperation. We have special consultative status by the Economic and Social Council of the UN. And we have had that for a very, very long time, since the 1950s. We're also have status with UNICEF, and we work with the World Health Organization and the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. These are all the regions that we have national associations in, and these are the commissions that we have: Education, Ethics, Indigenous, and United Nations. I serve on the United Nations Commission for UN New York. So the UN is in other locations as well. And each part of the UN focuses on different things. The things that we focus on, I'm going to tell you more about in a minute. The overall, what IFSW as this very large global body focuses on partnerships, action, policy, and advocacy. And this is really what we also do within the IFSW New York UN team as well, but in that arena. This is our team. That is Evelyn Tomaszewski, who's the regional commissioner. And you can read all the names here. We have some new members, and that's very exciting. And we have 2 student representatives as well. So part of what we do is, I'll just start off with what we do, but we are building partnerships for action, policy, and advocacy. We basically do a few different things. One is we represent IFSW on non-governmental organization committees at the UN to build solidarity and ground advocacy at the UN. One of our representatives works with the NGO Committee on the Status of Women. Another works with the NGO Committee on Social Development. I work with the NGO Committee on Financing for Development. There's also the Indigenous Forum and many other NGO committees. What we do is we write policy statements based on the UN meeting theme to the Commission on Social Development and Commission on the Status of Women. In those statements, we are responding to a priority theme that's related to the Sustainable Development Goals. So we're writing that from a social work perspective, and we are providing recommendations from an IFSW social work perspective. We then also organize and host side events for both of those commissions and also the high-level political forum. We highlight themes in relation to IFSW policy, the People's Charter, and the innovative work of social workers and allies around the world. We also help to organize Social Work Day at the UN, which actually is not happening this year. I think we're going to every other year model. But we do that in collaboration with International Association of Schools of Social Work and International Council on Social Welfare Partners. There's usually a student-led global conference, which I believe is happening. It will be online. If you're interested, you can let me know. Our student representatives will be organizing that. And we also contribute to IFSW policy. One of those policies is the role of social workers in advancing an ecosocial world. And another one that has not been approved yet is co-creating social care and support systems, a social work approach. So, part of how we co-build spaces of hope and harmony at the UN is through partnerships, action, policy, and advocacy, but we're working on a macro level, right? So when we're in those NGO committees, we are working with other NGOs around a specific topic, whether it's financing for development, social development, the status of women. But what's exciting is that we are working beyond the silo of social work. we're representing social work, but we are talking to non-social workers, both in civil society, but also as representatives of different governments and UN entities. We do support multilateralism through our work, through being connected to the UN, and building and maintaining these partnerships are really for the purpose of joint action for advocacy, policy, and systems change. Let's see. We also build knowledge and strengthen internal and external IFSW partnerships through amplifying voices of social workers and allies working with marginalized communities. Our vision that informs our work at the UN is of justice, inclusion, and opportunity. And any statement we make or policy recommendation we make is framed by the IFSW Global Definition of Social Work and Ethical Principles, by IFSW policy, any kind of policy that has policies, reports that are coming from IFSW. It's also shaped by the Sustainable Development Goals and the Global Agenda, which I'm going to tell you more about, but that is something that was developed with our partners that I mentioned before, International Association of Schools of Social Work and International Council of Social Welfare. It's also shaped by the People's Charter for Co-Building an Ecosocial World. So this is the global definition of social work that was developed by IFSW and IASSW in 2014. And I will just give you a minute to read that. But we are really guided by this definition of social worker that is broader than some national associations' definitions. And then we are also guided by IFSW policy, and we often refer back to social work and the Sustainable Development Goals, which we do affirm. Our perspective is a little bit more bottom up, meaning our focus is really on marginalized communities that we work with rather than a top down focus. But we do support the SDGs. We also refer back to the role of social workers in advancing a new eco-social world, the policy for socially just, fair, and sustainable world trade agreements, and the role of social work in social protection systems, the universal right to social protection. The Global Statement of Ethical Principles by IFSW promotes recognition in the inherent dignity of humanity, human rights, social justice, the right to self-determination, the right to participation, and respect for confidentiality and privacy. The Sustainable Development Goals is, as you probably know, it is 17 goals, really ambitious goals for completion in 2030. And they've been embraced by governments, civil society, and the private sector as a way to create a better world by 2030. Initially, progress had been made in some areas, but the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, increased global conflicts, global inflation, gross inequality has had a devastating impact. And these crises have reversed progress on peace and ending hunger in some low-income countries. So at this point, we will not be achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. It doesn't mean we have to give them up, but we need to be realistic. And right now, this was a little while ago. The picture might look a little bit worse now because of the war in Iran. But on average, only 16% of the SDG targets are on track to be achieved by 2030. And the remaining 84% demonstrating limited or a reversal of progress. Again, we are not going to meet them in 2030, but they're still very robust, important goals. There's many ways that social workers are contributing to achieving these goals, but we'll have to rethink how we're going to eventually achieve them. And the global agenda for social work and social development, it actually started in 2010 to 2020, and it was really an exciting time for our other partner organizations, that's us and the other two organizations I mentioned, came together with something somewhat similar to the Sustainable Development Goals before they really got going, of going through a really robust and thorough democratic process to decide on certain themes that we wanted to try to achieve every 2 years. And then each of the social work associations would report back to the regions. There's reports. I meant to say everything is on the IFSW website if you're interested in finding out more. In 2020, there was a shift to make the global agenda a little looser because things were changing so rapidly. So now there's themes for just each year. And we're currently, the theme that we're in right now is the same theme as the World Social Work Day, which we follow. So this is being celebrated by our partner organizations as well. So I had mentioned that our work at the UN is framed by the People's Charter. So I want to tell you a little bit about the background of the People's Charter, which I believe is a really beautiful example of both a process and an outcome that is really capturing that spirit of Harambee. So the People's Global Summit was held in 2022, and it was an online summit that was co-convened by IFSW and the United Nations Research Institute for Social Development. Our partner organizations were also involved. This conference was groundbreaking in many ways. It was online, there was no cost to participate, and it offered multiple ways to contribute beyond traditional academic papers, including blogs, dances, songs, interviews, poetry, storytelling, and TikTok-style videos. It was initiated by 26 organizations representing hundreds of millions of people of different faiths, philosophies, rights movements, workforces, generations, traditions, and cultures. All of these contributions were shaped the People's Charter for a New Ecosocial World, which is a living document. It's just 2 pages. You can again find it at the IFSW website. You can also find it online if you type in People's Charter for a New Ecosocial World. And I meant to also mention that pretty much all of these documents are also translated into Spanish when you go to the IFSW website. The policies and definitely the policies and the People's Charter as well. So within the People's Charter, I meant to say also, one of the realizations that we really had to move beyond working in silos was due to COVID-19 pandemic, where we really joined with other professions and professionals like public health, medical profession, to really try to assist people with the consequences of COVID-19 and work on a policy level to advocate for access to vaccines. So that was part of the impetus for the People's Summit. The values of the People's Charter are buen vivir, a concept rooted in the cosmovision of Quechua people in Andes, and it includes love and care for the people and the planet, responsibilities, and holistic rights. We also have the values of respect, dignity, harmony, and social justice, diversity, belonging, reciprocity, and equity, and Ubuntu, which I had mentioned before, which is a concept from African philosophy that means I am because we are, and it includes accountability and togetherness. It was made popular by Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela. And finally, solidarity and inclusion and collaboration. So again, I do believe social workers are doing this right now on the ground. But I think one of the things that the People's Charter does is it provides this very simple and accessible roadmap. So maybe you're doing these things on the ground, but not always making the connections to the larger global picture and to the polycrisis that we're trying to handle, adapt to, and prevent, and work with. But you see, one of the things is co-developing reciprocity. And it is this idea that when people feel valued in reciprocal relationships, they can create joint ownership of positive change through new structures at all levels: individual, local, national, regional, and global. Co-building peace with, again, this idea that it is preventing war and violence is facilitated through the development of trust and mutual respect for diversity. This is achieved by working with and in families, communities, and countries until everyone is confident enough to understand their own and others' rights, responsibilities, resources, challenges, and strengths. Co-living with nature, the rights of ocean, sky, river, plants, and land are interlinked with the rights and responsibilities of people. Co-creating social justice and co-realizing equality. Sorry. So these are, again, in this very simple 2-page document, that's a living document. It does emphasize respecting diversity through joint social action, and really focuses us on these specific actions of ecological integrity, economic reform, international solidarity, employment and work, and state social protection. People's Charter also starts by talking about the polycrisis, as did the People's Summit. And again, this idea that these overlapping problems require an integrated response. So, one thing that is very helpful about the People's Charter in our roles as social workers is that it helps us with analysis and action, where we can think outside of the box, in the sense that sometimes there are false solutions that are put forward that on the surface they sound good, but they actually contribute to the problems. So that might be solutions that are based on the, let's say, a solution such as paying polluters not to pollute so much, that it may on the surface sound good, but with using the People's Charter as a tool for analysis, we can see that that's actually not a solution. It also emphasizes co-designing and co-building with communities. We have, as a profession, we have sometimes done this very well, and there's other times when we have not done this well. So it refocuses us. This holistic human rights framework, which I'll talk about in a minute, and a real focus on economic development that is good for workers, communities, the natural environment, and ecosystems. And that's really about social development, which is a core part of the work that we do all over the world. So before the People's Summit, the IFSW General Assembly approved this policy, the role of social workers in advancing this eco-social world. And I'm just going to touch on this part of it really introduced this new holistic human rights framework that is inclusive of individual rights, social rights, cultural, but also the rights of ecosystems and the broader rights of nature. And this is something very special we bring to the table as social workers already. We're just explicitly naming nature and ecosystems as other living beings that we are interdependent with as well. So the role of social workers in advancing an eco-social world, I'm going to go quickly over this because I'm running out of time. But again, the co-design and co-building of urgent global action to implement the 5 dimensions of sustainability, which are people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. Engaging governments and other key stakeholders to recognize social workers as key partners, and working with communities as agents of change. Integrating the principles of a new eco-social world into social work education, and transforming social protection systems from reactive to preventive systems to support communities prior to natural disasters, environmental degradation, and pandemics, so they're better equipped to withstand these events. I will just repeat some of the other things, but I'll just point out the focus on visionary leadership by national associations that create policy and direct practice, eco-social initiatives rooted in a holistic human rights framework, and eradicating poverty through creating sustainable economies and environmental and social systems that leave no one behind. So now, this is the fun part. I want to highlight some of the things, and really I'm only highlighting our side events. And this is after we write the policies for the policy statements for Commission on the Status of Women and Commission on Social Development. We then invite social workers and our allies to present on their work that is in that's aligned with what we wrote in the statement and our recommendations. So now I'm taking some of those themes from World Social Work Day and showing how they show up in our online events, which are recorded and accessible at the IFSW website, as are all of our policy statements. So this is one we just had a few weeks ago that really captures the theme of amplifying marginalized voices. And I just want to show you, this was the title of our event, Inclusive Social Policy Through Rights-Based Social Work in an Eco-Social World. And we were responding to the priority theme set by Commission on Social Development, which was advancing social development and social justice through coordinated, equitable, and inclusive policies. So we had 3 speakers, and I'm just picking out one for the purpose of timing. But this speaker presented on co-building an inclusive eco-social world, centering deaf communities and persons with disabilities. And she also contributed to writing the statement. But she basically, as we're trying to help people understand how the poly crisis and the poly solutions, I'll call them, it's thinking through things like the challenges that deaf communities and disabled communities face in the context of climate change. So already they are socially excluded, and there's many, many different challenges that they face and many strengths that they have. But we have to think through, what does climate justice look like for deaf communities and persons with disabilities? What is missing, right? And this is so interesting because she used this clip of somebody in Nepal saying during heavy rainfall, people can assess the risk of the situation by listening to the intensity of the sound of rain. which helps them move to safer places. We cannot hear the sound of rain when we're sleeping. So helping us think of these responses in a very, again, holistic way, the problems in a holistic way and the responses. So this is another example with the World Social Work Day theme of co-creating social development solutions through social solidarity. And this was one speaker we had a few years ago. And he is, I believe he's the lead of the Social Work Association in the Democratic Republic of Congo, who's doing this really important work during wartime in DRC. But one of the things he is doing is this coming up with solutions, co-creating solutions to hunger, nutrition, and poverty through this social solidarity group of women farmers. And the Social Work Association was providing some assistance to get them started, but they were able to, right, the National Association of Social Workers in DRC helped them rent land, paid veterinarians for livestock, and buying seeds for crops. And through this, working together, and the women planted the crops and also sold them at the markets, they were able to increase food and nutrition sustainability and livelihood for households headed by women in the village. And there was an increase of agricultural production by 70%. This is, as you can see, bringing people together is also a form of social cohesion, which is something very important to us as social workers. And then also the priority theme for Commission on Social Development was fostering social development and social justice through social policies. They have long themes to accelerate progress on the implementation of the 2030 agenda, etc., for the goal of poverty eradication. So this, in relation to the Harambee, rebuilding bonds of belonging through decent work, solutions by and for marginalized communities. So for this side event, our title was Social Work Strategies to Support Decent Work to Overcome Inequality and Achieve the 2030 Agenda, Co-Building an Eco-Social World. We invited an activist scholar who works with waste pickers. And waste pickers are, she presented on how waste pickers' work should be recognized, and it should be possible for them to have decent work through their work as waste pickers. And this is a really interesting thing that's happening around the world. The organization she is with does some really wonderful work. So some waste pickers do have worker cooperatives, and in those they are getting more, they are getting decent work through getting paid, getting the proper equipment to handle waste. The other component of waste pickers, how they contribute to mitigating climate change, is that they are going through all the garbage, and some of the things are being recycled, some of the things are being sold. So instead of these huge sanitation companies that want to come in and just burn all the waste, which is terrible for the environment, you have waste pickers are actually a key group for working on climate change adaptation. And that can come with decent work. And this was not a social worker, but a sociologist. She calls herself a garbologist. And the group she was working with is in Brazil. But there's groups in India and other places that are forming workers' cooperatives, some that have been doing that for 20 or 30 years. And rebuilding bonds of belonging, which was another theme, along with the Harambee for World Social Work Day. And this, we had a speaker, well, I'm saying rebuilding bonds of belonging by transforming our care economy through affordable, accessible care and decent work. And this is a social worker who presented. She works with an organization called Caring Across Generations. And she just gave this wonderful presentation that highlighted we are all in need, we'll all be in need of care work eventually. We're all going to age. Some of us may become disabled over time, some may not. And there's this need for care that's affordable and accessible. But again, there's a need for decent work in care work, because in the United States and outside the United States, care workers are either underpaid or unpaid, and doing this very important work for society. So there is, we do talk a lot about decent work. That's something that is a pathway to our ethical guidelines of human dignity and worth, and really a foundation for those building blocks of building solidarity and actually being able to contribute to joint action for change. So solidarity and co-creation for quality care and quality jobs through worker ownership in the home care industry. Again, care work is a really big issue globally and within UN conversations. And this is about worker ownership in the home care industry. This social worker gave a really interesting presentation on our theme was transformative gender responsive social protections in an ecosocial world. And she presented on this initiative that's happening in California, where there's already many worker cooperatives of home health care workers. Okay, so they've joined together, they formed a business, an LLC. Through it, for them and other excluded workers, they're paid more money, they work less time, and they have social protections through buying insurance or getting connected to insurance on state or regional level. So what they're doing, there's this huge gap because there's so much need for more home health care workers. We have an aging population. So there's not enough home care workers, and then the jobs do not pay well, they're not good. So, but they are when you have a workers' cooperative. So what this initiative is doing, which is in place right now, is they are bringing together multiple worker cooperatives of home health care workers to be a part of this California Central Home Care Cooperative. They have a governance board, staff and contractors, co-op development academy, and that's so they can train more home healthcare workers on how to start worker cooperatives. And they would like to eventually elevate this work to a national level. And other countries are doing some really wonderful work on it's a social and solidarity economy, workers cooperatives, where people are sharing the profits of the work that they're doing. And I did not get to finish my presentation, but this was the last one. This is another way of people coming together that's very exciting. There is this ILO C-190 convention to end violence and harassment in the world of work. And IFSW is a signatory to this. So what this group is doing, and I am about to become involved in, is they are working to get that convention ratified in more countries. It's been ratified by many countries, but many countries have not. So this is a way that all these different NGOs work together for joint action.
And we can't see the presentation.
It's an empty slide. because I did not finish it. So that is what I have, and I am ready for questions and conversation.
Okay, I would like to say a little thing is Anna, and I love it, your presentation, and how wonderful the world would be if we follow this philosophy, no? I am deeply grateful for you sharing it with us. I am sure our colleagues will be happy and will learn more about this year's theme, co-building hope and harmony. And now I will hand it over to Mustafi Khan, our friend and colleague, who will be starting the questions and answer session. Thank you, Mustafi.
Thank you, Karika. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Deepak, for your insightful and inspiring presentation today. And we truly appreciate your thoughtful discussion on the work of the International Federation of Social Workers, the global agenda you mentioned, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the broader vision of building sustainable and shared futures. And surely your reflections on the People's Summit, People's Charter for an Ecosocial World, those are really amazing, incredible. And the role of social work in advancing sustainability and global injustice have provided us with valuable perspectives and mass to reflect on. And surely your work reminds us of critical role of social workers can play in addressing global challenges and promoting collective action for a more just, as we say, like inclusive and sustainable world. So having said that, I would like to request our audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask to Dr. Deepak, please. Any questions regarding her presentation from our audience?
I just want to thank you, Anne. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for coming, Jamie.
I'm going to echo those words. Thank you, Anne. Always a great presentation.
And then I really have some questions. First of all, I'm really interested in your work, the work you do, as I shared with you before we started this presentation that I did my internship with United Nations headquarters, and when they were developing sustainable development goals. So I was thinking like, oh, she's covering a lot, and those are really, really interesting and in my area. So I was thinking about the topic and the theme of this year's co-building hope and harmony. So as it is like a call to unite a divided society. So how would you describe the nature of division in our society today? Could you please elaborate a little bit just on the theme?
I think we are in completely divided times right now. At least in the US, I don't think it's only the US, but competing realities of what's happening. It's so stark. So I didn't talk about the divisions so much because I feel it's important to talk about those things, but I feel like if people are starting with decent work and have some form of social cohesion, that is the only answer. I don't think if you have enough food to eat, you have social protections, I honestly feel that a lot of the divisions are because people are struggling economically. They don't feel secure in their communities, in their homes. They can't pay their bills. They can't. And, an argument has been made of the rollback of social protections and public funding is creating, this is what the special rapporteur on extreme poverty is saying, those conditions are creating fertile ground for the far right. People are angry, they're insecure, they're angry, and it's very easy to manipulate them to scapegoat people. So to me, if we can work towards finding ways, whether it's through, it has to include decent work, it has to include workers' cooperatives, all of those things provide people with the kind of the ability to fulfill their basic needs but also to develop social cohesion. And I think that sometimes that it doesn't have to be about, I actually don't think it always has to be about talking about the division. I think sometimes that almost is, I'm not saying don't talk about it, but I think if people have enough food to eat and they know there's a neighbor they can call if there's an emergency, we're just at a completely different starting point, right?
Exactly. Thank you. Regarding decent work, I was really impressed by one of your slides that talks about rebuilding bonds of belonging through decent work, solutions by and for marginalized communities. I was really excited that solutions by marginalized communities. Would you please highlight a little bit on your slide, like rebuilding bonds of belonging through decent work, solutions by and for marginalized communities?
I've over my time working as a representative to the United Nations and thinking about climate change and how do you get people on board and thinking about division, I really think decent work is just so central to everything else. If you don't have decent work, meaning good pay, working conditions, you have a say in what goes on, you have a union, you have your rights at work. Without that, I think that's the building block. So to me, so buy-in for marginalized people, I would say I am really excited. I didn't get to talk about it that much, but the social and solidarity economy, because it is a pathway both to decent work and to establishing social cohesion. So if you have a workers' cooperative, you are with other people you trust, you are sharing your profits, you're deciding in all of the social and solidarity. I talked about workers' cooperatives, but there's other formations. But in workers' cooperatives, you are sharing the profits and putting most of them back into the business. The point isn't, can I make more money? It's, I need to work to live a good life, but I don't need to have 5 mansions and 6 yachts and right. And I'm excited about the workers' cooperatives of waste pickers. You know, there is a group in India that's been around, and I showed that in class. I am forgetting their name, but they have been organized for about 20 years. So they are connected to each other. So that bonds of belonging, they're connected to each other in the identity as being workers, right? So we're together as workers, we support each other, we're safer now, we're safe, we are able to have lives with dignity. And I know people don't think waste pickers can do that, but they really can. And does that answer your question? I'm sorry, Mohammed.
Of course, I was really impressed. That's why I thought like, oh, I should listen from you a little bit more. Yeah. Thank you so much for addressing my questions. We have one question in the chat box from Dr. Mildred. And let's see, what is that?
I can't see it. Let's see.
It was like,
Sorry, and
what is the
sorry, it
meaning
was
of
not
the
for.
theme? Like,
I was going to say it was not for N. Sorry.
Oh,
Wrongly posted. Sorry, N.
that's
My
okay.
apologies.
No problem.
okay. Do you have time, Ms. Carito? Any questions
Yeah.
from our audience?
No, just greetings, no, for some friends, no, and they some people from Latin America ask if it is going to have a translation when we finish this presentation, the subtitles will be in YouTube. Just you, so everyone who are watching me, just pick up in
Okay.
subtitles.
On behalf of the CAPA Social Work Conference and everyone joining us in celebration of World Social Work Day today, thank you, Dr. Deepak, again. Thank you for sharing your expertise and for your continued leadership and commitment to the field of social work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mustafiz. Thank you, Carolina.
Thank you to you and help us and support us during weekend because we had some change, but we already passed everything.
That's what we do as social workers, right?
Yes, that's why. And now, just Anne introduced me to the doctora Sandra. A ver, ¿dónde está? A ver, pues, a ver, acá está. Could you open your camera, doctora Mildred? No?
Oh, there you are.
Ahí está, ahí está.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Amir, for being here. Just sorry for being hurry with the things, with the details, but Mildred accept us to be here today, and is present for this social work day. And now I will share your your flyer, then the people know you a little more. A moment. Aquí está. Y Mustafi, if he can show me, could you see? Are you seeing? Ahí está. This is our next case. A ver, Mustafi, can you see that? Can you see the flyer?
I can see the flyer, but it's smaller.
No? I will
Smaller
share again.
font. So can you just introduce Dr. Mildred so that it will be fine?
Yeah, but
I can start and you can then introduce.
but Dr. Miller, could you see in the screen?
Yes, I can see. I can see.
Okay. Entonces,
We can see the screen.
okay.
It seems like a very small font.
Ahí.
Okay, now
Yes.
it looks good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our session at the CAPA Social Work Conference in celebration of World Social Work Day. You know, this year's theme is co-building hope and harmony, a Harambee call to unite a divided society. At the beginning of this session, I'd like to thank Ms. Carito for organizing this wonderful event. And now, our today's speaker, Dr. Mildred Mushunje, a distinguished social worker and feminist leader with over 26 years of experience advancing gender equality and social justice across Africa. Her work focuses on ending gender-based violence and strengthening women's and girls' access to sexual and reproductive health and rights, services through research, policy advocacy, and system strengthening. Dr. Mildred has been recognized by the International Federation of Social Workers for her unwavering commitment to promoting women's rights and combating gender-based violence. Dr. Mushunje has extensive experience in generating evidence to inform policy and programming aimed at improving reproductive health outcomes for women and girls. Again, Dr. Mushunje serves as the Southern African representative for the Association of Schools of Social Work in Africa, contributing to the advancement of social education and professional development across the region. She has presented at numerous regional and international platforms, including the Commission on the Status of Women, where she has spoken on issues of gender and social justice. Dr. Mushunje, we are really happy and proud to have you here today, our today's session, and I would humbly request you to begin your presentation, please, Dr. Mushunje.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you very much for allowing me to speak at this commemoration. I'm excited to be here, all the way from Zimbabwe, and I'm just wondering if I'm able to share my slides. Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay, let me see. Share. Okay. Let's see. So I've gone to.
You can go to share, then you should see
Yes.
screen.
I see share settings. Let me see. I don't see the option.
Ms. Karito, you can please make her co-host,
Yes,
then
you can.
Can I send them to you?
Yes, send me through
Okay.
WhatsApp
Let
and
me.
I could pass.
Okay. Let me try and do that right away. Let me just switch off the camera.
While okay, while we are waiting, Dr. Mildred, everyone could write your question in YouTube channel. Okay, just send me everyone. Okay.
yeah, we can.
Do you
Okay.
have them?
Yes,
And
yeah.
no, Carito.
I have the your file.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
My apologies for
No
that
worries.
glitch.
No worries. No worries. Okay. Um, mhm.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. So I decided, since we are commemorating Social Workers Day tomorrow, and Social Workers Month, I will talk about the theme and what it means to me, and from where I sit. I'm from Zimbabwe, which is southern part of Africa, and it's a beautiful country. Last year, it was recognized as the Forbes magazine as the go-to place for holidaying, for sightseeing. So I come from a very beautiful country. So I decided to talk about what the theme means to me as a social worker, and looking at it, co-building hope and harmony, a Harambee call to unite a divided society. I think this theme is very timely given the kind of turmoil that we're in globally. You look at the war, the US, Israel, Iran war, you look at Ukraine, you look at Sudan, you look at, globally, there's just a lot of issues, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility. So for me, I thought this theme was very timely, and it was specific, I think, to the issues that we currently face. Next slide, please. So, just looking at the theme, I asked myself, why are we divided? Harambee is talking about unity, which means that there is some disunity globally, and even in different nations from which we come. So I looked at the theme, and I thought, I've talked about the polarization, the political polarization, the structural and social divisions in different parts of the world. And for those countries that have a history of colonialism, you find that is also a source of division. It's a source of inequalities. It's a source of inequities. It's a source of gender inequalities. And so these divisions manifest in different ways. They could manifest in racial racially orchestrated wars, inequalities. You look at South Africa, one of the most unequal societies in the world. You have the very rich and you have the very poor. So such histories are some of the causes for the divisions that we see today. And as social workers, we often have to engage directly with communities that are faced with such divisions, and that are bearing the consequences of these divisions. So as I was looking and interrogating the theme, I thought divided society in this regard is probably results in mistrust. It results in missed opportunities, which we gain out of working together. And it also means that there is no social cohesion. And that's what social workers encounter on a day-to-day basis. Next slide, please. So I think I've talked about some of the underlying causes of the divisions that I think we need to be dealing with, we need to be grappling with as social workers. So we need to address the issues of mistrust between social, ethnic, and political groups. And if you're familiar with countries like Rwanda, you will recall the ethnic cleansing that happened in 1998, 1999. the Hutu and the Tutsis, so those are still lingering issues that have not been adequately addressed. You also have economic inequalities, which I've talked about, that create resentment and exclusion. The context of South Africa, where you have the very rich and the very poor sitting next to each other. And then you also have issues to do with cultural or ideological misunderstandings. And we are seeing that, I think, in the wars that are happening across the globe. And then, of course, the historical trauma and unresolved grievances. Here in Zimbabwe, we had a Truth and Reconciliation Commission about 3-4 years ago, where the government was trying to address issues of ethnic cleansing kind of uprising that had happened. So you find those historical trauma remain with us and they're still unresolved. Next slide, please. We can go to the next slide. Yes. So looking at the role of social workers, I think we are positioned to mediate. We are positioned to bring healing and to co-create solutions. So the core building part emphasizes collaboration, which means as social workers, we cannot talk about healing. We cannot talk about mediating without bringing the communities together. We are trained that we are supposed to be non-judgmental. We're supposed to be to allow our clients, our communities that we work with, to exercise self-determination, self-agency. So this is what the role of social workers is within this theme, within all these conflicts that we have that are happening. And as social workers, we're also called upon not to impose our solutions, top-down solutions, but rather to bring people together and work in a sustainable way where solutions are entrenched within communities, where solutions come from the communities. If you look at Rwanda, for instance, where they've tried to bring together the different ethnic groups, you see a lot of the solutions that they've come up with, they are from within. It's the president who has said that the country needs to come together in a spirit of healing. In South Africa, with the apartheid, they also had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which also sought to identify and find locally created solutions to the apartheid era. The challenges that had been brought on by apartheid, the challenges that had been brought on by the divisions that had been brought on by apartheid. I don't think it's been resolved as yet. We still see divisions, the inequities that I already talked about. Next slide. So Harambee is a Swahili term meaning all pulled together. So it evokes a collective, community-driven effort to overcome division. So what we're being asked to do in this year is to work together collectively, whatever issues, whatever divisions exist in our communities, in our societies, in our countries, we're being called to work together collectively. So by community-driven efforts, we can overcome divisions. It's not easy. It's easy to write, but it's not easy in practical, which means it's something that we must be intentional about. You plan to do it and you say, we want to see these results by the end of the day. This is where we're working towards. And you're always invoking the collective spirit of the Harambee. So by invoking this concept, the theme suggests that the path to unity lies in shared action, empathy, and solidarity rather than imposing reconciliation externally. So whatever issues it is that we are dealing with, I think I keep going back to this issue that solutions must be co-created within and from the communities in which we are trying to bring unity. Next slide, please. The theme also signals a proactive stance on the part of social workers. So we are not only responding to the effects, but we're also trying to understand the causes of the disunity, of the wars, and all the and all the inequalities that exist. So it's about transforming fragmented communities into spaces of mutual support. And that mutual support comes from understanding the context in which we operate. It comes from understanding what cohesion means in a community. What might be a solution in Zimbabwe might not necessarily be a solution in South Africa or in Peru or in the US, because the contexts are different, but ultimately we're trying to get to the same goal. Next slide, please. So as social workers, we are being asked to engage in dialogue and mediation. So we facilitate conversations between divided groups, promoting understanding, empathy, and conflict resolution. And this means that we also need to be at the tables where discussions happen. We cannot talk about engaging in mediation and in dialogue if we're not at the decision-making tables where policies are made, where funds are allocated. So what I'm asking, what I'm saying here is that when we advocate for dialogue and mediation, it won't happen on its own. We have to be at the forefront to promote that. And being at the forefront also means we take up positions of leadership in different spaces. Then community engagement, understanding the communities with whom we work and their realities, their lived realities. And communities are made up of women, they're made up of men, they're made up of girls and boys, people with disabilities, people who identify differently. All of those need to be on board as we co-create solutions that are locally relevant and sustainable. Next slide, please. And then the number 3 is we're looking at empowerment and capacity building. So as social workers, we strengthen individual and groups to claim their rights, access to resources, and actively participate in societal healing. We also advocate for equity and justice. So we are addressing systemic inequalities, economic, political, or social, whatever the issue may be. But we are asking that when we are engaging with this theme, we're talking about advocating for equity and justice. And we're also talking about providing psychosocial support to individuals and communities affected by trauma as a result of divisions, as a result of global wars, national wars, and just unjust practices. Next slide, please. So my understanding of the theme is that it highlights division not as a permanent state, but as a challenge that social work can address through co-creation, community participation, and collective healing. So I'm very optimistic, and I want to believe that in as much as we have all of these global upheavals that we have, it's not a permanent state. And as long as social workers are actively participating in peace building, in advocating for the rights of the oppressed, for the rights of the unequally treated, for social justice, I think we can get to a point where we start to see healing, where we start to see inequalities being reduced. Next slide, please. Then I just want to talk about something which is close to my heart. I think as social workers, at times we forget that in the work that we do, we forget to look after ourselves. And it's important to talk about self-care. So in as much as we're engaging with communities and trying to promote peace, reconciliation, social justice, equality, and so on, at times we forget to care, caring for the carer. And it's important that as social workers, we find ways where we can debrief. We find ways in which we can engage and introspect so that we are looking after ourselves. We want to be able to avoid burnout in the work that we do, to avoid, we must to be able to give to be able to do healing. You must be a healed person. But if you're not whole, then it's difficult to share of what you have. So it's important that as social workers, we engage in self-care and we are whole in mentally, physically, and spiritually. And next slide. And I also talk about Ubuntu, which is something that we have in Africa, where we say you are because I am, and I am because you are. We are because we are because we are. So in this work that we do, you can't do it on your own. If a community has experienced healing, it also brings healing to me. So what this Ubuntu philosophy says is, we bring healing so that it also brings healing to me. I become whole if you are whole. So if the world is burning, there is no way that I can sit here and celebrate my peace when Iran is at war, when the US, the Israel are at war. Even if I'm saying that there's peace in Zimbabwe, I cannot enjoy that peace as long as another part of the world is burning. So it's looking out for each other. And that is a principle that we've been trying to advocate as schools of social work in Africa, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, where we're saying, I am because we are. I only become whole when you are also whole. So that's a principle that I think is important, especially for this theme. And I'll ask for the next slide, which I think is probably the last. Decolonizing social work. In all that we're talking about, I think we cannot not talk about decolonizing social work. A lot of the work that we have done in this part of the world, in Africa, has really been Western based. And we're saying, as we engage in Harambee, where we are saying unity, what does unity look like in Zimbabwe? What does unity look like in Peru? What does unity look like in New York? We need to be able to decolonize social work so that it is applicable to the context in which we are practicing. I think there is a global movement. There is a recognition that social work should be decolonized. And as academics, we need to be responsible for ensuring that as we impart knowledge and as we learn even from our students, we are engaging in a curriculum that is decolonized, that speaks to the realities of the context in which we are. I'll stop there for now, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer. But I think that was the last slide. Carito, please confirm.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Mildred Mushunje, for your insightful presentation on this year's theme, as you know, like World Social Work Day. And we truly appreciate your thoughtful reflection on the question of why our societies are increasingly divided, and your important analysis of the role of social work, how social work can play in addressing these divisions. And your discussion on the theme and slogan, especially co-building hope and harmony, Harambee called to unite a divided society, was really inspiring and timely. And by highlighting the spirit of Harambee, you reminded us of the power of collective action solidarity, and shared responsibility in building more inclusive and harmonious communities. Well, now it's time for question and answer session, or I should say discussion session. If any of us from the audience share or make comments or ask questions, please feel free.
What better introduction than when a colleague like Mildred, who comes from the same region, explains the philosophy of Ubuntu, the Harambee. How did you choose this philosophy? Did a specific organization propose it?
The theme or the Ubuntu?
The Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So from the writings that I've done and the readings that I have done, I think Ubuntu has always existed, but now there is a deliberate and intentional movement towards decolonizing social work. And decolonizing social work, I think, goes back to understanding who we are as Africans, what it is that makes us Africans. And Ubuntu is a philosophy that describes what an African is. So I am who I am because of the next person. And I can talk about the way society or the way families live in Africa. You find if one household has something to eat and the next household doesn't have, they will share the little that is there and ensure that nobody goes hungry. So there are different ways of doing that. In the rural areas, you find there'll be a communal garden or there'll be a communal field where everybody goes to work in that field. And when the produce is harvested, it is then shared with the vulnerable members of community. So if there's grain, it's then shared with those that are maybe they're labor constrained, they can't work in the fields. So the community works together and they work on a particular field. So when harvest comes, everyone has. So it's going back to humanity and not caring only for myself, but also for the next person. And I think it also speaks to what Anne was saying towards the end of her presentation about addressing inequality, so that it's not about just being wealthy for me, but if I'm wealthy, I must be able to share. And I'm not sure, Anne, if that's what you were saying, but I got the last bit of your presentation. So that's what Ubuntu is really about.
Many thanks, Mildred.
Any
And
other?
there's also, sorry, I also see Sunungurai. She's a colleague from the Midland State University, and I'd love to hear her thoughts as well. We've written together. She's my PhD student.
Wow. Yeah, please. Open your mic.
Do you hear me? Am I
Yes.
audible?
Uh-huh.
Yes, you are.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation, Mildred. For yes, when we are looking at Ubuntu philosophy, especially Africa, we are looking at active action. Here, we are not just looking. We are looking. For example, she talked about issues to do with food security. And you also look at child protection. And I really liked when she highlighted the Ubuntu philosophy existed many years ago, but now we have a chance and showcasing how these African philosophies can the Ubuntu philosophy we know we are saying to come up with something which is concrete. We are also appreciating the Ubuntu philosophy in solving some of the contextual problems which are relevant to the African context. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Mildred. That was a wonderful presentation. About Ubuntu too, I think that the rest of the world is learning. And I think that's about the power and importance of Ubuntu. And that's why you do see it in the People's Charter as one of the values. It is in the global agenda. So it's really been, as there's this more refreshing focus on interdependence we have with each other and with ecosystems and the planet, it's really creating a fertile ground for decolonizing social work, I think, of being open to, we haven't been doing things the right way. There's many things we've done that have not been correct, and we need to take responsibility for. And where can we learn from outside of the West, about different ways of doing things? So that's my comment.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Dr. Mushunje. As I was listening to you, I was really impressed, and I was thinking about my culture. In our culture, we have a proverb like "Doshe mili korikas, hari jiti nahilas." I mean, we work together, we not lose, no shame. And also, I teach here a theory that talk about like Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, two German word. It's like community and society. In a community, we know each other, we help each other, and we have a very good relationship. But in a society, like in an urban area, people don't know each other like that. And I can relate it like with our social capital in our culture, that like we do work that we cannot do alone, and that really helps. And your presentation really remind us about like this social capital, this community bonding relationship, bonds of belonging, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and for encouraging us to reflect on how social workers can contribute to unity, collaboration, and hope in our society. Thank you again.
Yeah, maybe the last message no, for the social workers who are watching us. Maybe Annie first and later Dr. Mildred.
I guess, Mildred, I loved your presentation because I did not talk about division. And then we had a conversation about it, but we did both talk about building community and building social cohesion. And I guess my message to social workers would be to really take to heart Mildred's presentation. And also, I would like you to think about my emphasis on decent work as being this kind of core piece to everything else. Decent work in connection with community. So social and solidarity economy, I really think, along with the things that Mildred said about division that are so, so important, that is part of building a strong, cohesive, I think of it as, our goal is to create caring and accountable communities where we take care of each other, we hold ourselves and each other accountable, but we're in relationship to each other. And that's the only hope.
Thank you, Annie, and for a better world. And now, Mildred.
Thank you. I think from me, it's about celebrating our differences we are social workers in different parts of the world, but we all want peace. We all want unity. We all want the collectivism. We all want the Ubuntu in its different languages. So I think it's about celebrating our diversities, but also recognizing that those diversities are actually, they can actually be what our biggest strength is. So learning from each other. And I think self-care for me has become very important, defending the defender. So I think it is important that as social workers, we also take time to refuel and be I think strong enough for the next person. I think that's what I would say for now. And thank you so much, Anne, for talking about decent work, especially currently where we see a lot of unfair labor practices. We see a lot of like in the NGO sector, you see the most unfair contracts and social workers working in those contracts. So I really hope that as social workers, we can stand up and advocate for fair labor practices and be able to enjoy decent work in our different spaces. Thank you.
I hope this is the first of many more conversations. And for everyone, let's continue to follow the contribution of our friends and especially the philosophy Ubuntu bring us today. Thank you so much, Mustafi, too, because you help us since very early for Jami and for Sunu Burai who are participating and the people who are watching us in YouTube channel. Also, thank you so much for being with us. And tomorrow, in some hours or tomorrow, will be the subtitles in Spanish. Okay, well, it's time for us. Have a good day for tomorrow. No, tomorrow is our day. Is our social work day, and have a special time, for everybody with your colleagues, students, no, in your universities and centers. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Mustafi, Annie, and Mildred.
Thank you, everyone. It was really wonderful session, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.